May I now invite, for even a broader picture, Daniel Ahn, Senior Vice President, R&D Software Security at Samsung, and ask him to introduce us to mobile assurance under Adversarial Atmosphere. Daniel, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Daniel. I'm from security team in the mobile communication businesses at Samsung Electronics. Next slide, please. Okay, today I will try to share the mobile assurance under Adversarial Atmosphere. First of all, thanks for giving us opportunity to give us opportunity to share our experiences on mobile assurance. Obviously, our mobile devices has been exposed to various adversarial situations, and as you can see from the first slide, our device has been hacked, or even some of our design has been flawed to be kind of factors, surface for the attack, for the future threats, and so on. So I will try to talk about what kind of the attack vectors are available out there and how we can achieve mobile assurance against the adversarial events and attacks. Next slide, please. Normally, the mobile device has been attacked by various sources, including website, the app stores, even Wi-Fi access points, even some cellular network environments has some eavesdropping tools and so on. So obviously, their goal is to steal some assets and information from our devices, and also they are trying to compromise some of the framework on our devices as well. But that's not it. Once this device is compromised, even they are trying to connect the cloud storages as well as corporate storages as well. So eventually, this device can be the tool to launch the attacks against the important assets and corporate information as well. So having said that, these attack vectors has been growing, and also these attack vectors, some cases attack vectors are unknown. So it is very critical to understand and articulate potential attack vectors in advance. Next slide, please. Even though we are observing various attack vectors, and also some of the attack, even the threats, are from different sources. Some attacks are from the physical layers. In other words, some attackers will connect some of the attack tools to our devices directly. So eventually, through that channels, our device can be the hack, even the damages. And also, some cases, these devices will be connected through the networks. So through the network, attackers will launch another attacks against our devices. Even in some cases, our device itself will have some kind of vulnerabilities and risks. So through these malicious logics, even our devices will be compromised. So these are some of the adversarial situations that our customers might face daily life. So today we will share some of the practices how we can address those attack vectors and threats. And even some of the practices will help us reduce potential risks under our devices. So I will share some of the practices as well. The next slide, please. So again, as I mentioned earlier, we will try to share some practices, but these practices are from different layers. The one layer is when you develop these devices, before these devices release to customers, you have to reduce the risks. And also, once these devices released to the customers, also you have to continuously monitor risks. We have to reduce. So in other words, before releasing device, as well as after release devices, we have to consider risks and vulnerabilities. Next slide, please. So before we are talking about risks and vulnerabilities, first thing is the user has to trust this device. then to trust this device, all the trust should be from hardware chips. In other words, security should be starting from the chips. So that way you can achieve hardware root of trust to protect critical asset and data. Once this trust has been built within this hardware, we have to provide some kind of maintenance trust. We call even during the booting time, we have to maintain trust, as well as runtime protection will provide the trust during the runtime environment. Whenever your devices are running some applications, even doing some specific activities such as games, even you are accessing some the corporate data, even files and so on. Also, after that, you have to prove the trust. In other words, if this integrity has been tampered, then your device will be vulnerable. So you have to prove the integrity has not been tampered using some kind of one-time fuse. In some cases, if device is compromised, the encryption key is not restored, even if the user password is corrected. So such kind of the foundational security features are necessary. So we are trying to build hardware and software integrity security architectures so that way you can provide robust and secure devices to the customers. Next slide, please. Once we build this hardware-based trust on the devices, next steps we have to provide hardened versions of software layers. So with this integrity software and hardware security architectures, eventually we can deal with all kinds of attack vectors that I mentioned earlier. As I mentioned earlier, some of attack vectors are from different sources. Eventually they are trying to make a significant damages on the devices, and after that they will launch another attack to the corporate level. So without these integrated security architectures, it will be very hard to prevent such kind of attacks. So we are trying to build integrated security architectures against the various attacks and threats. And even our solution has been received various recognitions through the Gartner, even some military, as well as government, as well as standard bodies as well. So with these kind of integrated solutions, eventually we can address various the security the issues against our devices. Next slide, please. But you may have questions. I mentioned several times integrated security architectures. Then how can we build such kind of architectures? The important part is to leverage the security development life cycle. Even though you are aware of security architectures, if you are not considering security requirements during the development life cycles, eventually you are missing various potential vulnerabilities and risks in your devices. So, to prevent potential security vulnerabilities during each step of product development, the phases, we have to consider the security requirements at the requirement elicitation phase. Even when you design the products, you have to go through rigorous threat modeling. And even when you are implement your design, we have to go through secure coding, even very well articulated development life cycle guidance as well as tools. Even when you are doing testing, you have to go through heavy loaded vulnerability assessment as well as pen testing. So with the mechanisms, eventually can achieve security assurance before your product is released. Next slide, please. Then after your product is released, then also you have to do additional countermeasures. So normally what we are doing is before product is released, we are doing various testing as well as assessment through security development life cycle. Once this device is released, even our product is released, we are trying to provide up-to-date security protections. So the critical security vulnerabilities are reported, then we have to make a quick response to release potential patches. And also we have to work closely with carriers and partners so that you can improve the security of our devices. So those quick response and strong partnerships eventually will improve the trust relationship with customers. In other words, up-to-date security protections are necessary once your product is released. Next slide, please. So this kind of up-to-date the protections has been done for many years. So next slide, please. So we provide more than 950 million active Samsung devices has been updated every month. In total, close to 10 billion active Samsung devices has been updated annually. And it covers 131 Samsung models, even 1 year. So as you can see that through this rigorous and continuous up-to-date protection with security updates, eventually we are trying to make sure all of our products and devices will be secured based on our best practices. Next slide, please. So we are trying to achieve risk-free production before product is released. And even after the product is released, we are trying to achieve security through up-to-date security updates and protections. But that's not enough to provide mobile assurance. Another important layer is to provide continuous monitoring through threat intelligence. Threat intelligence will leverage the AI technology to understand situations and potential trends and other unknown threat events. And also, once we identify those threats through intelligence, also we have to provide adaptive security to be deployed in our devices. So in other words, your device or your product should be adaptively leverage those security vulnerabilities and risks that you detect through your intelligent security. With such holistic security, eventually you can provide additional level of mobile assurance. Next slide, please. Obviously, continuous monitoring will give us more opportunities to observe new threats. But in order to deal with unknown threats, also you have to have some kind of the consolidated reporting channels to get the new attacks or new threats from our experts. Also, through these reward programs, we are trying to reach out to security research community. So that way, even though we are dealing with known attacks and known threats, known vulnerabilities during our production cycle, we are trying to deal with unknown threats after our product is on the market, even on the field with our customers' hands. Next slide, please. This year's the Cybersec 2020 deals with together against adversarial internet. So even though I've been talking about mobile assurance, this kind of practices will be applicable to all security layers, including IoT, even some other critical infrastructure protections. Since I've been talking about risk assessment during the production, even after some of devices and services are launched, we have to provide security, the measurement, as well as the security updates, and also continuous monitoring. And the threat intelligence will give us another level of security assurance. Those are some of the mechanisms that I mentioned. But in summary, this kind of a threat detection and analysis needs three important the factors. First thing is we have to understand up-to-date threat situation awareness through various data sources. And then through partnerships, we have to build up this threat situation awareness. Once we identify this kind of threat situation awareness, we have to do continuous as well as ongoing attack awareness. In other words, threat situation will give us mainly the trend as well as just the surface. But ongoing attack awareness will give us actual impact to our devices as well as infrastructures. And in addition to that, we have to even predict potential threats as well as attacks. So those three steps should be done with collaboration and partnerships. Even developers should be involved, even security analysts as well as the product manager should be involved with that collaborations, as well as customers, because customer has to leverage our solutions and services so that way they can leverage our threat situation as well as attack awareness related solutions and services. That way our product as well as our customers' device will be protected in a timely manner and with reliable solutions. Next slide, please. So having said that, the under adversarial circumstances as well as atmosphere, I strongly believe security will help us achieve excellence in our product and partnerships and customer relationship and our future. So hopefully through this security, the forum as well as some of our presentation, let's try to practice all of our best experience together so that way you can achieve security for our future. Thanks again for giving us opportunity and hope you have wonderful events. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing with us your point of view on security in all the mobile matters.